how do you motivate your team? Like just the fact that we are trying to provide a drug that will have such a huge impact on this kid is one motivation. But the other one is exactly what you're saying. Like people get exposed to areas that they will never be exposed in other places. I had a case, somebody in my team, I was like, why you don't work with the manufacturing group and with the medical affairs on like the new sites that will be qualified to donate like the organs that we need. And that transformed into a whole new area where working with lawyers, creating contracts, working with the sites of administration, hospitals across the US. So it's like impossible to not learn, and impossible to work in silos.
Welcome to the Leading Minds podcast, where we delve deep inside the minds of the top life sciences executives. Join us as we unravel how they think, their vision for the industry, the purpose that drives them, and how they are moving the industry forward while fueling growth for their companies and their teams.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are of the individual contributors and not of Sumitomo Pharma. This is Leading Minds, and I'm your host, Jasmeet Sawhney. In every episode, we meet a leader who has made a lasting impact in the life sciences industry and continues to drive the industry forward. We go beyond the name and the title to unravel their personality, their beliefs, their mission, and most importantly, to understand how their brilliant minds are changing the world for the better. Before we get started, I want to thank our exclusive sponsor, Axtria, a leading global provider of cloud software and data analytics solutions to the life sciences industry. Now, on to today's episode. I'm truly honored to introduce our guest, Johanna Rossell. Johanna has a broad yet deep background across consumer goods and healthcare in the US and global geographies. She has led multifunctional teams delivering strong results for companies including Procter & Gamble, Novartis, Merck, Biogen, and Sumitomo Pharma. She has demonstrated success leading products to market in the US and created integrated pre- and post-launch commercial plans both in the US and globally, including a tissue-based product in regenerative medicine, advanced therapy, and several other rare disease therapies. As the Chief Commercial Officer of Enzivant Therapeutics, she led the expansion of one of the few FDA-approved RMAT products, Ridimic. In her current role, she serves as SVP and General Manager, Rare Disease at Sumitomo Pharma. I'm excited to talk to her because she brings a wealth of knowledge that paves the commercial vision for other tissue-based products to help patients living with rare diseases. Johanna, thank you so much for coming to the studio and sharing your expertise with our audience, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Johanna, let me start with your career. Your journey has been remarkably progressive. And as we talked about different companies that you worked for, Procter & Gamble, serving millions of customers, and now you're working for Sumitomo. Can you please provide an overview of your professional journey in your own words so that audience can understand how you've become the inspiring leader you are today?
Of course. So thank you so much for inviting me. Let's start from the beginning. I am from Venezuela, from Caracas, Venezuela. I studied computer engineering. And despite studying computer engineering, my first jobs were with Procter & Gamble in consumer goods. I learned the power of marketing and commercial with them, and they trained me and they took me from Venezuela to Argentina and Chile. After 9 years at Procter & Gamble, I had the opportunity to go to Switzerland with Novartis. It was more than 20 years ago, where Novartis wanted to do marketing and commercialize in a way that was based on insights from customers. And, as Procter & Gamble, the specialty is to create marketing plans and satisfy the needs of consumers and customers. That was kind of a good match between learning from the pharmaceutical industry, a totally new industry for me, but also bringing to Novartis what was the school of how to do, follow the actionable insights of your customers to grow businesses. This was a long time ago when even the drug names have different names in different countries. So as you may imagine, coming from P&G and the power of understanding what your customers really need and how to ensure that you're satisfying real needs. It was a win-win from the beginning. I stayed in Switzerland working for global marketing and guiding their what they call the new expansion of marketing skills, and I was providing that to different countries. And then very soon I realized that where the power was, or where you can really make an impact, was in the US. So after almost 3 years in Switzerland, I came to the US to work for P&G, for Novartis in New Jersey. So I live here in Summit, New Jersey, and work for them, always in the specialty side. I came from P&G, and P&G was the school, as you can see, from a computer engineer to learn marketing. And then Novartis was the school to learn pharma. I didn't expect them to be so married to the progress of my career. They never gave me the marketing of patients. Throughout the 10 years that I spent at Novartis, they gave me the opportunity to work in access, understand the complexities of the healthcare system in the US, work in medical marketing, understand the medical affairs, a relationship, and what we could do from the patient point of view. Then I work in HCP marketing. I had the opportunity to go to lead a field force of 100 people in the state of New York as part of what I will call a training to be a leader in pharmaceuticals. And with that, I had an amazing career at Novartis, where I had the opportunity to grow. But also, when I look back, the win-win was based on the fact that at P&G, you don't commercialize if you are not innovating. Like, it's impossible, because you don't know what the competition is doing. You don't know where your customers are consuming information. It was kind of like the basics of doing business. I came to pharma, and that was innovative. But I kept like the thinking that, you don't stay put if you think your physicians are learning information this way. You just need to be on top of it and look for new solutions for them to be informed and to educate them on the areas that you want. So with that, I had the opportunity at Novartis to lead one of the transformations they had when the Diovan went off patent, and work on identifying what were we missing as a company in terms of when we want to innovate in pharma, and finding ways to reinvent the wheel when somebody wants to do, I don't know, social media, or when somebody wants to use new channels of communication with the physicians, etc. I found through my career and being a director managing different drugs that it was like again and again you need to educate internally the teams on what you wanted to do when the environment has changed. So how do you create the tools inside the company to maximize like innovation without needing to go back to the basics? So I ended up leading that team, and it was the first time that I didn't have a P&L, because I was always my career. And it was very satisfying, because it was also influencing not only the specific brand and growing a brand from $0 to $1 billion, but the company into delivering more innovations faster. So after 10 years at Novartis, I worked at Merck, and that was when I moved to Philadelphia, and I had the opportunity to work in biosimilars, a very different business model that, to be honest, it looked more similar to my consumer good experience than to pharma, because it wasn't about innovation. It's just like how, like I ensure that I'm the same as other, but I create a model that is sustainable. And I learned a lot about IP and manufacturing, and it was a great experience in the immunology space that I managed that. Then I also had the opportunity to work at Biogen on Alzheimer's, and I was in the global team for the Alzheimer's drugs. And with that experience, that was my first job in Boston. I moved into Ensivant. I moved from big pharma to a very small company that had 30 people working at the company. And it was very satisfying to see how you can separate what's needed to succeed, the great learnings from, Biogen, Novartis, and Merck. What are the key and core elements of the commercialization of a business that will allow you to succeed, not only from the commercial point of view, medical affairs, etc., and what are the things that maybe when you have a lot of resources, you can go into it, but not necessarily the core of the areas that you need to work on to succeed. And it was a great experience because it demonstrated to myself that I could take those learnings and apply it to a smaller company and find those levers. And today, we successfully have a drug that, as you said, is one of the first regenerative medicines that have been approved in the US and serving a very needed population of kids. And it's been great.
Yeah, what a journey. What a journey. And I do have a follow up question on that one because you worked for, as you said, large companies and then moved into small. So, must have been some learning, some challenges. And how did you adapt to it? Because it's a very different environment.
I think obviously the resources, like when you were at Novartis, you have departments dedicated to different topics, publications, market research, etc. So obviously you need to adapt and know that you're not going to have all of those resources. That was the first part of making sure I adapted to the new environment. But the power of decision making, it's a great part that I have. Or at that time, I had so much experience that I knew what were the key levers. So it was easier to make decisions. Like you're in the C-suite, you are, explaining to your coworkers that have a specialization in other areas of like what you need to do because it makes sense for the business, and things happen a lot faster.
Which is very interesting. So, you've given us so much insights into how these big companies and small companies work, which is phenomenal from your journey. I would like to switch gears to this all important topic of rare diseases and regenerative medicine. To start with, can you tell our audience how they are different from traditional medicine?
So rare diseases, there are like different spectrums of rare diseases because there could be a rare disease that have 30,000 people a year or 100,000 people a year diagnosed with the disease in the US. And they are the ultra rare diseases where my drug plays a role. So first of all, it's not a matter of numbers, it's the quality of the people that you hire. You need to ensure that to create a sustainable business, you need to bring an organization that is very agile, that is able to deliver on different fronts. Maybe you have an expertise in one area, but you need that group of people to be open to learn new areas or to adapt, to have bigger scopes. So I would say that's the number one thing. When we look at rare, you're not going to succeed creating a structure like the one that you had in Novartis in a drug that perhaps was, in the cusp of being a rare disease because you have a lot more resources. So my experience in small organizations doing rare and even bigger, you need to be sustainable and you need to understand your P&L in a way that if you're investing today for the future, what is that future? Like, what is the structure that you're creating to make sure that you can deliver on the business and also for the patients? There are things that you can skip. A patient hub, like the more complex your drug is, the more relevant the patient support program that you need to have. Our patient support program is so comprehensive. It goes from the early diagnosis, following the families, educating them until they get the treatment. And because our drug is a regenerative medicine that needs time to work in your system, and in our case, the T cells could take between 6 months or 12 months to actually creating immune system for the kid, you follow with this hub, these families, even after they got treated. Like the typical area of focus of patient hubs is to treatment. And then, there's some education, but in our case, we stay there because it's extremely important that, for good outcomes, that the families continue the isolation, that the families know what are the things that they need to follow to make sure that the kid succeeds with their treatment.
So that is very interesting. And you talked about how the traditional versus the rare and how much of a difference there is in terms of how to operate. Now, if you were to talk about regenerative medicine and advanced therapy, RMAT, it seems like that is the intersection of rare,
Mhm.
orphan, cell, gene, tissue engineering, on all of that, right? Can you explain that a little bit? Because it seems like we talk about this next generation therapy concept, and this seems like where everything is coming together. But is that right? I mean, I just want to understand, and hopefully, audience can learn from that.
So imagine regenerative therapies. Let's talk about our area, which is tissue based. So imagine that you need an organ from another human being to re-engineer that organ to be able to transform it into a drug that is has the quality, the safety, and the efficacy that the FDA wants, like in any other drug, so you can deliver for another patient. So, only in that phrase, you can imagine complexity in manufacturing.
Right.
What your raw material is in your typical small molecule, you just have, like external manufacturing that is giving you some of this raw material. You're just buying it. For us, that's an organ. So the complexity of manufacturing starts just by getting the organ and it expands. Imagine CMC, the group of CMC is now, and the FDA is now in another area, which is going to another hospital or a hospital to get all the requirements to make sure that this organ can be safe to re-engineer and give to another patient. So that's why the work that we do is so multifunctional. I work really close with CMC, with medical affairs, because many times the doctors that have the expertise and know what we're talking about are going to be the ones that will lobby for you at that hospital to see if there is an opportunity to collect these organs and make sure that, like they follow all the testing that is complex and could be taken to a manufacturing facility to create a drug. So that's tissue based, like an experience. In our case, it's just, like for the drug that I work, it's a thymus that is coming from another kid that is having an operation. It's a donation of a person that is alive. That, by itself, you need to get all the consents. You need to make sure that the families feel comfortable with that. You need to transport this organ in a way that achieves, goes to a manufacturing facility and it's in good shape to be processed. And there's a lot of testing. I mentioned this to you. You can only process like 2 or 3 of these organs at the same time. There are a lot of qualifications that the FDA asks you to have because it's also new for them. There are not many of these drugs out there, and they are conservative because they need to ensure that you are doing the right thing at the same time. It's not like you're buying a raw material that is always with the same specifications. So it's a complex work to get to treat the patients.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much complexity as you describe it, right? You have to really wrap your head around all of the different things that you work with. But I think one of the most critical areas, we were having this conversation earlier about getting closer to the patient, which the pharma industry is and has been trying. It's not new, but they have been trying to get closer to the patient as much as possible. And you seem to be working with the patients. And then on the personalization, which is also a very big trend in the industry, it can't get more personalized than having the organ and making sure that the organ will work in the new human body.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. From the standpoint of where the industry is headed, you are actually doing that work.
Sumitomo Pharma in general has been recognized for putting all the effort to make sure that this happens. No, because when we're talking about ultra rare populations, you need to find the right sustainable way of doing it. It needs to be in a way that everybody feels there is a value behind doing this. And the most important part, like like trying to save the patients, but also everybody that gets involved needs to understand like how this could be done in the long term.
And you use data for this and analytics. I'm pretty sure there's algorithms out there. Can you tell us a little bit about how you go about finding these patients and all that?
One of the main things that we committed, because as you know, when you are new in a disease area, you have done your research, your clinical trials, but then you are in the real life and of actually treating the kids under the FDA approved BLA. So our commitment of having a registry that can follow the kids from the moment they get the treatment and how are the outcomes. We have committed to do this registry that allow us to see what are the outcomes after we got approved. And also through your patient hub, even if, like we don't collect there, like the clinical sides of the patients, we also collect a lot of the areas of opportunities that the families see. Because the best you educate the families, the best they're having a patient journey or a family journey to get treated in a way that you're efficient, you're satisfying their needs, especially in ultra rare, so much concern. Like imagine nobody in your family had this disease, nobody knows about this. You immediately go to the internet and we ensure that we have good education there because it's scary, like your kid that you were happy to have, like, is newborn, everybody's happy, you encounter with these problems, you immediately go into the internet. I'm sure you can find information that could make it even worse. So through our hub, we ensure to educate, have presence, even if we are ultra rare. We need to ensure that if a family is looking for this disease, we are there. So it's not just the Facebook page of the issues that some family maybe had in the past. So we collect the experiences of everybody that goes through a patient journey and through our hub to improve what we're doing. It could be from the education point of view. It could be the relationship with the institution that is going to treat the kids, or even, like ways to identify new patients.
We'll continue the conversation after this quick message from our exclusive sponsor, Axtria. Improving commercial and patient outcomes. That's our goal at Axtria. We are at the forefront of life sciences digital transformation with the most advanced cloud software and data analytics solutions, enabling companies to manage data, derive artificial intelligence-powered insights, and streamline business operations across the product lifecycle. Because of our deep expertise in the life sciences domain, we are the top choice for life sciences companies for their digital and business transformation initiatives. We work with all of the top global life sciences companies who consider us their true partners, driven primarily by our most important differentiators, our people, and our inclusive and progressive culture, which is focused on developing the life sciences leaders of tomorrow. With every project, we are helping our customers achieve commercial success. But more importantly, we are helping them improve health outcomes for patients. See what we can do for you at axtria.com.
It is fascinating when you talk about how the lives of these patients can change with the therapies that you're enabling and bringing forward. Now, if you were to look into the future, can you tell us the advancements that are happening and what are some of the drivers of change that you see coming up?
I think there are many companies in the gene and cell and tissue-based or regenerative medicines. Some of them are early on. As I said before, like the more we showcase that it can be done, if you are in an ultra rare or rare area, get the support from, like for example, the FDA. The FDA, their goal, they know the biggest unmet needs are in these rare and ultra rare scenarios. They have created the regulatory pathways to help, like fast track, orphan drug, take advantage of those areas because there is a big investment as in any clinical trial, etc. So I see that different companies are at different stages, but when you are getting support from the FDA, sometimes you are educating them. So I think we were one of the first ones. We got the opportunity to educate the FDA on what we wanted to do. So I think the more companies are going through steps, the next ones are going to be better because the FDA will be more advanced or will be less conservative, perhaps, because they have seen it that other companies have done it before. So I think I'm very positive of those that are doing clinical trials on the possibilities of moving forward their trials to deliver. What I'm a little more concerned is to show it enough cases where the business model works, because even the FDA recognized that they understand if the populations are small and you don't expand globally, then maybe the business case is not sustainable. One of the things that we're very proud with Sumitomo Pharma is that we found a way to do it in a sustainable way, where like there is an opportunity for the patients to be treated today and in the future.
I think you talked about education and that the patient and their families have to understand. I think it's the whole ecosystem that needs to understand and get educated. You talked about FDA. HCPs, we were talking earlier that HCPs do not have enough understanding, even the oncologist
Yeah.
and immunologist. I mean, you need to get involved to be able to actually help the patients. And the time frame is very short for especially a drug that you have in the market. So it's very interesting to bring together all of those aspects to be able to help the patients. And I know that is what you talked about is kind of a teaser into what's going to come, which is amazing. And it's not just about rare diseases. What's the future? In my view, there is a lot of the future of pharma lies in that.
Yeah.
And you touched upon that. FDA recognizes that. Now, I know you're passionate about helping patients. Can you talk a little bit about the purpose and why you're doing this?
So I always say that obviously I had a career in consumer goods, and this is like the opposite.
Yeah.
So when I came to pharma, I feel like this role that I have now is like what pharma is about. Like you are like helping families. This could be an ultra rare disease, but each kid touches like at least 50 people, at least, or more,
Right.
because it's like the family, the direct family, and the friends, and the kid, their siblings. So I'm very passionate about that, but I'm also passionate about creating value. I always say that even if it's ultra rare, I also participate in the early stages, like when we are planning for, phase 2, clinical trials, phase 3. And I always say, like, you need to have a real reason to enter in the standard of care of a disease. And innovation needs to be anchored in value. Everybody, that the resources are not infinite. And a doctor that is getting a new tool for their, like algorithm of treating this kid is an opportunity for them to be more valuable, but also for, like having more choices to treat the patients. So even if you are a small drug, it's the same equation. How do you show value? Like, do you understand that if I introduce this to the standard of care, it's going to cost more because you are introducing a new element? But let's be committed to, even if you don't have all the data today, you're putting the effort to deliver the data in the future that demonstrate how each drug that we introduce into the healthcare system is actually improving quality of life, improving outcomes. And I think that has been the base of our success with this drug. It's like it's a very small population, but I can show you the data of what happens if you don't treat the kids. They are going to end up in the hospital anyways, and it's going to cost all of this money, and the output most likely will be very negative. Versus, you can see here, you can treat them today for a better future for everybody. So sometimes when we are innovating, we don't have all the data, but I think the FDA, the payers, everybody wants to see that there is a commitment, not only extrapolation, but like, that you will generate that data that will show how you have earned a place in the treatment paradigm.
When you talk about impact with a life expectancy of, I think we were talking about 1 year,
Yeah, two or three.
and curing that for the whole life, it's very difficult to put value on something like that. And the passion and the purpose that you get out of that, I can just imagine
Yeah.
how amazing that feeling is, to be able to impact someone's life who's just born, and all the people, all the ecosystem around them, which is really, really valuable.
And to be honest, it's the power of data. Like you can show them, you need to show in your clinical trials that you are aiming at this, like that most of your kids will survive, that you have the data and you are committed, as I said before, like to continue to gather the data to demonstrate that values.
And I think the other key thing that I'm kind of underlining here is that the way the traditional pharma has worked is you have these functional silos. Here, pretty much, there has to be no functional silo if you really want to serve the patient. Because when you have a time span of life that's only like a few months away, you have to bring together all that pharma value chain into one ecosystem to be able to find those patients, get them on the therapy, get them treated at the right time.
And I think, how do you motivate your team? Like just the fact that we are trying to provide a drug that will have such a huge impact on this kid is one motivation. But the other one is exactly what you're saying. Like people get exposed to areas that they will never be exposed in
Right.
other places. I had a case, somebody in my team, I was like, why you don't work with the manufacturing group and with the medical affairs on like the new sites that will be qualified to donate like the organs that we need? And that transformed into a whole new area where working with lawyers, creating contracts, working with sites of administration, hospitals across the US. So it's like impossible to not learn, but and impossible to work in silos because nobody's doing one thing. It's like a combination of everybody.
And I'm thinking about the traditional world and the chronic disease medicines and the ones that serve millions and billions. Not that they don't provide that much value, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
very,
of
very
course.
valuable. But just how the structure is in place, you almost have to unlearn all of that to be able to actually serve in this new, rare, ultra rare model, because otherwise you'll not be able to get the work done if you had your clinical separately, R&D, clinical, medical, manufacturing, and commercial. All of them have to come together in this ecosystem and work as one team.
And the beauty of it is not only with your company, the sites of administration, like they are as committed. They see the huge value you're offering and they see how these populations with rare diseases, like have no other options. They also become extremely committed to the journey, which, as always, is not easy for these families.
Johanna, it is so inspiring to see leaders like yourself working passionately to deliver patient outcomes. Now, talking about leadership, what advice do you have for young professionals who aspire to be leaders of tomorrow?
I think, as you can see from my background, don't be afraid to try new things. It's like a theme. I know we talk about it that I'm a computer engineer, went to do marketing, then I ended up in pharma. You trust yourself more than having many years of experience is the desire to learn new things and to commit. You can't come to pharma without learning about the science. That was new for me. I came from IT to consumer to them, but I knew that that was relevant because how are you going to work in healthcare without knowing about the science? And it's exciting because it keeps you, young, like know new things. But that's just the base. What's more important is the grit, understanding that you can do it. Like if you put the effort, you demonstrate to people that you are committed to learn new things and don't be afraid. I feel like Novartis was a great school on trying new things. I did social media at Novartis when social media, and this is like 15 years ago, they were like, what? My lawyers were like, what are you talking about? We're going to do social media for rare diseases. And I was like, no, we're going to do it like in 9 months when we all get educated on the risk, etc. So they gave me the opportunity to demonstrate that I could bring other skills that were not like the typical pharma skills and gave an space to try. And I will be like very transparent. I will be like, I'm going to try these three platforms. I know not all of them will work, but these are the KPIs, how we're going to measure that this works and it doesn't work. And I think the culture at Novartis was of innovation. Okay, try, tell me if it work, and if not, like let's move to what will work for the patients and the business. So don't be afraid to try and to think different.
That is amazing. On a lighter note, one takeaway from me is if you're a computer engineer, you can do great things in life.
I feel like it gives you common sense.
All right. So, in the last question of this segment, I would like to ask you about work life balance.
Mm-hmm.
You are busy with all the different complexities that you manage every day and different areas that you take care of. How do you balance your personal and professional life?
I think the world has changed significantly since COVID. I have older kids now, but life balance before raising kids, having like important roles in pharma, was very busy. But two things for women in business, I think you need help. I came from Latin America where a lot of women are in business, but you take for granted the fact that you receive a lot of help, or your family is close, or you have a nanny that will come every day. I was so surprised when I came to the US and I saw my peers and they didn't have nannies that came every day. I was like, I need this. How am I gonna do like everything that I need to do to accomplish my goals and also be with my kids? I remember a funny story. My son was a junior in high school. And of course, like when they go to high school, somebody needs to pick them up 4 p.m. We will have meetings. And I remember his wrestling coach told me, this is the first time I see a junior in high school with a nanny. Because like he didn't drive, somebody needs to take him to the practices and pick him up, and feeling comfortable with the fact that you need help, that you can't do it all by yourself. I had a career in pharma, my husband too. Like we divide and conquer on the things at home, but also we travel, so we needed that external help. And help translated for me to have these nannies through the years. I had one that was 10 years with us that moved to Switzerland, came here. It was amazing. But it could be anything else, like that. It can be done just by yourself raising kids and maybe your husband also working, or the opposite too. Like if you want to have a dual career, you need help. And it's different now for the families because they don't need to go to a place every day. Most of them, I think, in a way, is more flexible, but still, you need help because the things need to be done. And making sure you spend time with your kids, you are going to be better at that if you're not super tired of doing the basics.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your experiences, Johanna. And the tremendous insights are definitely going to be helpful for the audience. As I said, that was the last question of the main segment. Now, on to some fun questions. I will be asking you some rapid fire questions that you will need to respond to quickly.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. What comes to mind when you hear the word leadership?
Inspire, have a vision, and support your people.
Name your mentor or mentors or someone who has inspired you.
Dagmar Rosa Bjorkensen was a leader at Novartis that I follow a lot of her advice, even the one that I just told you about getting support. You can't do it yourself, but also how to move my career into places that maybe I didn't feel comfortable, but trusting yourself and gaining from that experience for the goal of continue growing.
What's some of the best advice you received? I know you shared some, but what's the best advice you've received?
I think one of the best advices, besides that you can't do it all, is to ask for help. Sometimes, when we start leading teams, we feel that we can solve issues and we become so independent that at the end of the day, we don't elevate a lot of the potential issues that the teams could have because you are supposed to be the person that solves these issues. But feeling comfortable to bring some internal mentors that perhaps no we're not like the typical people that you work every day. I just started a mentorship with my chief human resources officer. She and I have like total different perspectives, but I love talking to her because she helps me see different perspectives. I feel like even if you grow in your career, you can always get a third party opinion on things that are happening in your team, etc.
Name your favorite book or books.
I'm reading now the book called Let Them by Mel Robbins, and I love it. I think I have applied a lot of her techniques, but I will say that it's a good refreshment. Let Them. And it have given me some tips with my kids and with people that I love or at work. So I recommend it.
I'll add it to my list. Definitely. What do you do in your free time?
So my free time, I like to try to stay active. I used to be a huge runner. I haven't run that much lately, but I'm doing kickboxing. And I love traveling, try to keep some schedule where I can travel with my family or my friends every year. That makes me the most happy. I have lived in 5 different countries, so I'm very familiar with traveling. I always feel like brings you a new perspective, and it's a whole big world out there
Yeah.
to learn.
You can have dinner with any person in the world. Who would be the 3 people you would pick?
I'm a lot lately into organizational psychology. And I don't know if it's because my son went for psychology, but I have learned a lot lately or very interested on those areas. So Adam Grant, do you know him?
Yeah.
So he's an organizational psychologist from Wharton. And there is another one that is Angela Duckworth.
Yeah.
And I love their perspectives. I like when I look back at my experience coming from like Venezuela, succeeding in the US, it's a lot about grit, but a lot of things that my mom taught me that she didn't know anything about psychology, but I don't know how she had that learnings. And I like to be refreshed with that. And then Mel Robbins, because I'm reading her book and she makes it so tangible and, like also good things to learn about life that sometimes you think you have under control. But I think I would love to talk to her.
Yeah, all of those are phenomenally insightful people. So great. And the last one person you believe is a leading mind in our industry and you would recommend featuring on this podcast.
I think I'm a little biased because of all the years that I spent at Novartis. But I think that Vas Narasimhan,
Yeah.
he's a CEO that came after the company became so big and amazing. And Vasella will be another one that I will mention. I like what he's doing. It's taking him some time to show like what he had in mind about innovative therapies. But I like that he's not afraid to make the vision of the company more like shaping the future in a way that is a little more innovative than the last years. So I think he's doing a great job in the sense of even digital health and the CAR-Ts have proven to be not very easy to do, but like he's not giving up on these areas on cell therapy. So that one.
Awesome. I love those responses, Johanna. And that was an amazing rapid fire round. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and insights with our audience. As I mentioned when we started, you've had an incredible journey and the impact that you're making with your work is just phenomenal. It's hard to put it in words. Very few people we meet who have that much interaction with the patients, and the touch that you're able to provide in curing them is just amazing. Thank you so much. Many congratulations on all the successes, and thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
To the audience, you are the most important part of this show. Because of you, we are the top show in the life sciences industry. Thank you so much for joining us today, and tune in soon for the next episode of Leading Minds.
Thank you for listening to the Leading Minds podcast by Life Sciences Voice. Please share and hit subscribe with your favorite streaming platform. For more information, please visit our website at lifescivoice.com.